Welcome to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered, our White House special. Of course, those of you who were watching on Friday, last week, I had the privilege of attending the grand opening of the podcast row that the White House is doing, full transparency, allowing, of course, new media to come and have access to very important people. So I had the opportunity to sit down with Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., of course, the Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, and Deputy Press Secretary Anna Kelly. And I want to show you guys these interviews in their entirety. And so I'd like to play for you first my interview with, again, you'll notice by my interview, I don't try to hide. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is an inspiration to me and has been for about a decade now. And it was a very full circle moment for me to sit down with one of my personal heroes. But here it is, my interview with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. All right, welcome, Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I cannot believe I'm uttering these words. We are here in this moment. We have worked so hard for someone like you to come in and just throw HHS on its head because of all of the craziness that has been happening. And I want to ask you, I just saw earlier this morning, you announced that you are totally restructuring HHS. What does that new structure look like?
Well, you know, what we found over there is we have a sprawling bureaucracy that has all kinds of redundancies and a lot of administrative costs, and much less an emphasis on actually mission, which is gold standard science, patient care. And during the Biden administration, the budget of HHS went up by 38%, and the amount of employees increased by 17%, and all of the metrics of public health actually accelerated downward. We need to reverse that. And so we had, I came in, we have over 100 communications departments. We have 40 IT departments, 40 HR departments, and on and on. And we are going to consolidate those. The agency is a $1.9 trillion agency. It's completely impossible to govern. It's impossible to inspire. It's impossible to have a unified mission that everybody wakes up in the morning and says, my job is to make America healthy again. These different agencies, divisions were living in silos, and sometimes they devolved into kind of fiefdoms where they were at war with each other. So I found out that medical information that is collected by one silo, they then sell it to the other groups in my agency, instead of sharing it and saying, how do we use this in a way to improve patient care? How do we use it in a way to make people healthy? We're cutting down 28 divisions into 15. We're eliminating the redundancies. We're streamlining the agencies. We're going to lose we're going to go from 82,000 employees to 62,000. We're going to do nothing to cut the scientists or the frontline providers or the people who have core responsibilities for protecting human health.
Yeah. So basically, as with every federal agency, there's ridiculous bloat and redundancy, and the need to get rid of that, exists within HHS. I can totally see that. I want you to tell me about your new guidance to the FDA on the GRAS, generally recognized as safe, that, prior to you coming in, some of these food companies could just self-report that their certain ingredients were safe. And what is your new guidance?
Yeah, the background of this is that in 1947, when FDA was getting its act together, they created this standard. The original intent was that every new ingredient be tested. Every ingredient of our food be known, be tested. We know what the safety and risk profiles are. They said there's some ingredients that are so well known that have been used for thousands of years, like flour and eggs and salt and sugar. And we're not going to require the companies to test for those. And so they carved out a category called generally recognized as safe, GRAS. Unfortunately, when the agency was captured by the food industry, they hijacked that designation and they said everything is grass. So in our country, every chemical that is now added to food is assumed to be generally recognized as safe, and no testing is required. And in Europe, where they only have 400 ingredients in our food, we have 10,000. In Europe, chemicals that are added to the food need to be first safety tested before they're allowed in. In our country, that was never so. So we're going to end the use of the GRAS standard, and we're going to instead, and then we're going to go back through all the chemicals that are in our food, and we're going to test them one at a time. And we're redeploying massive amount of research resources to do that task, because we got to make Americans healthy, and that is the best defense against infectious disease and epidemics and pandemics. If you have a healthy population, you already have a built-in defense system.
Yeah, it takes me back to the COVID era when we had all of these public health officials talking about how Americans, the death rate was so high compared to these other countries. And it's like, well, the obesity rate is very high too compared to other countries. Well, chronic illness is high too compared to other countries. So maybe we should look into that as well. They didn't want to talk about that at the time.
Exactly. We had 16% of the COVID deaths globally in our country. We only have 4.2% of the world's population. We literally did worse than any country in the world. And a lot of the reason for that, some of it was just bad pandemic management, but a lot of it was because we have the highest chronic disease burden of any nation in the world.
Yeah.
And the people, CDC said that the average American who died from COVID had 3.8 chronic diseases. So, it was really the chronic disease that
may
was
be
killing
something
them.
to do with it. Right, exactly. Maybe we should look at that instead. So I know that you just recently met with these top food industry CEOs to talk about eliminating, all of these, the dyes, the chemicals that currently exist, again, in United States food, even though places like Europe and others have a lot of these ingredients banned. How productive was that meeting, and how willing do these food CEOs seem to make America healthy again?
I think the meeting was very productive. We
Great.
told them that the dyes have to be out within 2 years. And we want them to reduce the amount of sugar in their food and, the amount of seed oils and other ingredients that may be contributing to the chronic disease epidemic. I also had a separate meeting with all the baby formula manufacturers and distributors in our country, and work with them to develop a plan to make our baby formula so that it is the premier in the world. Right now, there's a lot of problems with American baby formula, and we need to get the best food possible into our babies.
Yeah, when I had a nursing problem with my second born, and they told me they wanted me on this hypoallergenic formula, but it was all foreign. I could only get the only ones that they needed me to use. I could only get, they were recommending all, and I'm like, I'm not supposed to get these. Why isn't this available in America? So I know all of the moms appreciate your great work on that. Okay.
There is a company here that is now making good, organic formula, not with non-allergenic ingredients in it. We want to encourage that. We also want to make it possible for American mothers, for the time being, to get a hold of the foreign formula until our local companies gear up.
Yeah. So I want to respect your time here. So last question. I spoke with Del Bigtree not that long ago with Maha Alliance about, he said that they were working on a new food pyramid, which very much excited me as someone who is very into health and nutrition, because the government telling us to eat 12 to 15 servings of bread a day was crazy. And so how willing would you be to look at a new food pyramid and instituting one?
We're doing that right now. When we came in, the Biden administration had created new nutrition guidelines, but they were unworkable, and they were supposed to go into effect on January 20th. I asked President Trump to give us permission to kick the ball down to March. And the document that we got from the Biden administration was 453 pages long. Oh, it's completely useless to a mother or to a school. And what I said is we want a 3-page document that essentially says you should be eating whole foods.
Yeah,
right?
right.
And then give the schools the option of getting those whole foods locally, so that you're not dictating exactly what the diet is, but you're dictating broad categories and saying these are the kind of things. We don't want a lot of plastic packaging.
Right.
We want hot foods that are hopefully made on site. We should have nutritionists in every school in this country, like they do in Japan and other nations, that are supervising the food production and the nutrition of those kids. And have much healthier kids. We need to make this investment in our children.
Yes, yes, amen. I appreciate you so much. Of course, the Secretary of HHS, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., thank you for all the work that you're doing for our children.
Thank you, and thank you for being such a great warrior mom.
Thank you. Coming up next, we have Education Secretary Linda McMahon. First, I want to remind you guys, if you're not subscribed to my YouTube yet, what are you waiting for? We are going on 2 years of not being monetized. We are making... I know what we're making on this episode on YouTube. It's $0 because that's what it is every single episode. So the least you can do, it's for free. Just hit the thumbs up, comment, and make sure that you are subscribed to our YouTube channel, Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. Want to thank our sponsor, this segment, Relief Factor. So Relief Factor is there for those of you who live in constant pain. Now, this isn't for any pain in the ass spouses or loved ones. All right. It doesn't help with that. Stephen knows because I am the pain in the ass. And so, but what it does help with, Stephen, don't confirm or deny that that's correct.
Okay.
Thank you. So what it does help with is pain inside your body, which is, you may not know this, is due to inflammation. So typically you've got inflammation if you've got neck pain, knee pain, back pain, whatever the pain is in your body, it's the inflammation that's causing the pain. And this is a very, very potent anti-inflammatory. So listen, if you can be out of pain, it can be life-changing for you. It was for me, and it has been for so many people in this building that have tried it with great success. Try their 3-week quick start. 70% of the people who buy it go on to keep ordering more. That's how many people it's working for. So the odds are in your favor. It's going to work for you. You can go to relieffactor.com. Get that 3-week quick start over at relieffactor.com. Welcome. We are with Secretary of Education Linda McMahon. Secretary, thank you so much for being here, for participating in this. This is just amazing. This White House is doing so much for new media. You know, you watched the election take place, and you had Joe Biden and Kamala Harris relying on the CNNs, MSNBCs of the world, and President Trump and Vice President Vance decided, you know what, we're going to take a different path because we think we can reach the American people in new ways. And I think they were right on that. So you have done tremendous work already. I can't believe it's only been since January. I feel like this is years worth of progress that you guys have made in such a short time. And I want to ask you about, obviously President Trump just several days ago, he's signing orders. You guys have orders to dismantle the Department of Education. What does that mean in practice? I know there was a lot of reduction, but what else does that mean in practice?
Well, Sarah, first of all, thank you for having me. And you are absolutely right that podcasts and new form of media does reach a much broader audience. And that's one of the reasons I'm so happy to participate today, because I think it's important that people do understand what the Department of Education does not do.
Yes.
Because there are certainly impressions that the Department of Education actually educates people. We don't. Right. That's not our job. We don't establish curriculum. We don't buy books. We don't hire teachers or principals or administrators. You know, we're in position to help funnel funds that are appropriated by Congress for Title I schools, which means poverty level schools, for children who have disabilities through the IDEA program, which, I think can go back to where they were before there was a Department of Education, which is more than likely going to come through HHS, and I've spoken to Secretary Kennedy about that. He's very anxious to receive them. So the Department of Education going away simply means, and this is what the president really wanted to focus on, we're just getting rid of the bureaucracy that's standing in between the kind of funding that is necessary to flow through the states, while letting the states determine how they are going to educate their own children, to have their own policies. Now, he's a strong proponent of, school choice. He doesn't want any child trapped in a failing school, and certainly advocating for that. But that has to be decided at the state level by state legislators. But to the extent that we might help get bills passed through Congress that might be, educational savings accounts or scholarship accounts to allow that to happen through tax credits, et cetera. Department of Education would be fully on board with helping to support that. But dismantling the Department of Education simply means that we are removing the bureaucracy and let education happen at its most effective place, which is closest to the student in the state with the parents and the educators who were there.
Yeah, and I just think that it's been so instrumental in all of these departments. I was just speaking with Secretary Kennedy, and he just announced that they're having a restructuring as well because of the bloat, because of their bureaucracy, because of all the red tape, the redundancy. It's about time that we had a president who was serious about that. I feel like you are in kind of a unique position because coming in, you're like, I'd just really like to work myself out of a job. And you don't usually see that with government officials trying to have less power rather than, more. So when you look at, I was actually here last week. And I went over to the Department of Education where there was a protest, and they were protesting, I assume you. And also what I found to be fascinating was Elon Musk. And so they had this chalk art that they drew on the ground.
Oh, I was upstairs at a window looking out.
Were you?
Yes, I was.
Maybe you saw me while I was over there with my camera phone.
I didn't see any reporters. I just saw them drawing on the sidewalk.
Okay, well, we showed up shortly after that.
I wish I had seen you.
Yes. And they kept chanting, I'm sure you probably heard them if you went downstairs at all, Elon Musk has got to go. And the drawings were, this very scary Elon Musk holding a school, breaking it in half. And it was all very dramatic that Elon Musk was ruining their schools. And I just think it's just, to me, it seems like a perfect representation of the problem with education in this country is that you have these people who really think that that's what's happening, who really think that Elon Musk is stealing money from their children, when in actuality, as you mentioned, you've got the Department of Education that the White House has been very clear. Students with disabilities will still get funding. The Pell Grants will still get, all of these things will still be in place. And yet they're acting as if children are going to die because you guys are trying to get rid of the bureaucracy.
It's the most ridiculous thing. And, when the president asked me to take on this job, and I told him, I said, I don't come from the world of education.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't need that. He said,
Good.
Because this job, and I knew what the job was, because clearly he campaigned on it, and I was co-chair of the transition committee, so I knew as we were bringing, cabinet members through and helping to decide on the cabinet what this job is going to entail. Mm-hmm. But what he said to me is, he said, look, I need an executive with management and leadership experience. Mm-hmm. He said, I know what you did when you were at the Small Business Administration. I know what you've done in your private life. And we've been friends for about 30 years. And he said, so I know you'll get this done. And from Elon and from, the Doge perspective, I have welcomed that outside audit to come into the Department of Education. And they have, through very rapid use of technology, shown us where a lot of the bloat was, a lot of programs that were repetitive and redundant across departments. I mean, and you think about this, I don't know how many departments we have in total in Department of Education, but each one of them had their own Department of Human Resources.
Oh, gosh.
And Communications. Mm-hmm. And so we've now consolidated them. We have had what's called a RIF, which is, a government restructuring in workforce. And we have consolidated departments, and we've shut down some of the outside departments. We brought them now inside, not all, but a good number of them. So we've reduced our overhead by about half. And we're going to save about $500 million a year through what I believe are mostly redundancies.
Yeah.
And we'll operate more efficiently. And everybody is on board and on pace to do what it is we need to do. So from my perspective, working with the Doge group that has been in education, we work together. They find things, they make suggestions, I make decisions, and it's a great team of getting things done. So I welcome these bright. I don't think we have a woman now. I think they're all guys at this point. We did have one we called a dojette at one point. But this team is really working together, and the fact that their technology and the rapid deployment of their technology through AI start to sort like backlogs of cases or backlogs of policy that we have, and to get through them quicker. It's just amazing.
See, you're telling me these things, and I think it all sounds great, right? The average American with common sense is like, this sounds $500 million a year you're saving us. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But then you have the AFT and you have the NAACP, who has already filed lawsuits saying that this is unconstitutional. What is your response to their reaction?
Well, you know what? We are working, we believe, within the confines of the law. That has certainly been the goal. But when you're moving at the speed that we're moving at, and Elon himself has said, look, we're going to make some mistakes. We'll have to pull some things back. But let's don't let that stop us.
Right.
Let's move forward. And when we reach, none of us are doing anything that's going to put anything out of commission, that's going to destroy anything. But there are nuances and there are policy things that, okay, if we've stepped over the bounds of that, well, let's pull it back.
Right.
But let's continue to make this incredible progress moving forward, which I believe in the end, when the citizens of our country take a look at what has been accomplished, they're going to say, thank God. Yep. Who would have thought 4 years ago that we could actually have done an audit of the United States government through people who are volunteering to come in and do it?
Right.
Especially Elon Musk. Oh my goodness, the president has mentioned so many times what he has given up.
Yeah.
And look at what's happening in showrooms of Tesla dealerships and that sort of thing. I mean, it's a big sacrifice on his part to do this.
Yeah, it is.
We owe him a debt of gratitude.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Okay, last question I have, because I want to be respectful of your time. How do you think that at the federal level, how do we prepare young people to enter the workforce?
Well, that is really something that I was all the way back to when I ran for the U.S. Senate when I was in Connecticut in 2009 and 10. I lost. I ran again 11 and 12. I lost again. Very, very hard to be conservative in Connecticut. Yeah. But one of the things that I talked about even then was the fact that we were ignoring our skill-based training and education. Part of the Secretary of Education that I am talking about as I travel is we need to focus now on making sure we do have skill-based training as part of our education. I like having short-term Pell Grants. We can get certificates for plumbers or welders that they might only take 6-8 weeks to get that done. They're then certified, they can go to work. Yeah. And in the meantime, for those who couldn't afford to enter that program, that short-term Pell Grant gives them the ability to do that. And I think it's incumbent upon parents and upon, I think, our culture in general to not look at trade skills anymore, which means higher scale manufacturing as well as technology as default education for those who couldn't make it and go to college.
Right.
That's just crazy thinking.
Yeah.
When we have so much opportunity with, I think it's 8 million jobs right now in our country, unfulfilled.
Wow.
Because we don't have the workforce to fill them.
Yeah.
We're bringing in new companies. They're investing in our country. We have to make sure that we have that workforce to fill those jobs. And what we're also working on is with other companies who are funding their own apprenticeship programs to train these workers to come in. We're also doing it with community colleges to work with their community and businesses to say, this is the kind of curriculum and training you need to fulfill what we need in the workforce. So much going on, so much to do.
Yes. Well, we appreciate it. I, especially as the mother of 2 young boys, who my older one constantly is like, well, when I go to college, and I'm like, listen, if that's for you, that's fine, but that's not the only path. And we need to take a look at all of the paths and figure out which one makes the most sense rather than some cookie cutter. So I appreciate all of the great work that you've been doing, Secretary. It's been a pleasure and an honor.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for having me.
Thank you.
Really a pleasure.
What a pleasure. Interviewing Secretary of Education Linda McMahon, just a wonderful woman, very genuine. Next up, we have Deputy Press Secretary Anna Kelly. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Jase Medical. So Jase Medical is there for those of you who understand the importance of being prepared in an emergency, and you've got your emergency food stash and you're like, I'm set. No, you're not, unless you have a stash of emergency medication as well, because as we've seen from, I don't know, like 5 years ago when the world shut down, and turns out if China shuts down, you get really screwed over if you don't have the medication that you need on hand when you need it. That is where Jase comes in. They have a Jase case, okay? That is what I am telling you, you need to go get and keep it for when disaster strikes, if supply chain shut down, if a crazy man-made pandemic was unleashed on the entire world. That would never happen, especially not from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, okay? Wink, wink. They've got this emergency kit. It has 5 essential antibiotics and medications that treat the most common and deadly bacterial infections. So it's for emergency use. You also can customize it to fit your family's needs. You can add ivermectin as an add-on. You can add an EpiPen if someone in your family has a severe allergic reaction. Point is, be prepared. You can do that by going to jase.com. You can also enter their giveaway they've got going on right now. While you're at it, purchase your own case. Enter promo code Sarah at checkout for a discount on your order. That is promo code SARA at jase.com. Welcome, Anna Kelly, of course.
Thank you so much.
Deputy Press Secretary of the White House.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Thank you.
I appreciate you being here, but I want to ask you, how great is it being in this administration? You had the left that was constantly like, Donald Trump hates women. And what I see is a whole lot of very smart, competent women that he puts behind him. You've got Caroline Levitt, who's doing amazing things. You guys are like a powerhouse team just coming in here.
Yeah, we have the first female chief of staff ever in Susie Wiles. I think we have the most women on any cabinet. You have Brooke Rollins, you have Pam Bondi. There are so many strong women in this administration. You're exactly right. I mean, this president is also delivering results for women. He's protecting women's sports. He's lowering costs for families. Like, I don't know what people were talking about. I think they're totally delusional because he is incredibly pro-family, pro-women, and it's been really, really exciting to be a part of.
Just more fake news.
Yes,
I believe.
exactly.
Yeah. I just saw earlier that the administration has arrested a top MS-13 gang member now on the East Coast, I believe it was.
East Coast, one of the biggest leaders on the East Coast. Yep. Just 30 minutes from D.C., which is crazy. Yep.
What is crazy to me is that you have these rogue judges who are seeing all of these, I think the average American would call these a major win. We are eliminating illegal criminals from the streets of America.
Correct.
And instead of supporting President Trump, you have these rogue judges who are trying to actively keep these criminals here.
Yeah.
It's insane to me.
It is insane. I mean, the president was given a mandate, obviously, to make America safe. And I think you're exactly right. It's common sense. Americans overwhelmingly do not want violent terrorist criminals in their communities, which is what Tren de Aragua are. I mean, we all remember during the campaign, they were actively taking over apartment complexes in Colorado.
We were told that wasn't happening.
Oh, but it was. Or we were told, it's just one apartment complex. And you had, now Vice President Vance saying, what do you mean? They're taking over apartment complexes. That's crazy. Yeah. And so American people don't want these violent criminals who are raping, murdering American citizens in their communities. It's common sense that people want safer communities and they don't want literal terrorists wreaking havoc in their neighborhoods. And so it's absolutely wild to me. You're exactly right. You have these activist judges. We had 15 injunctions in February alone. When you look back at the things Biden was doing and Obama was doing, and yet this wasn't happening. I mean, it's absolutely crazy the way that these judges are unelected, and they are just wanting to totally impede on the separation of powers and what President Trump was elected to do. It's absolutely wild, and it's totally unjust, and we're continuing to fight back on it every single day.
So you guys are prepared to take this issue to the Supreme Court?
Absolutely. Again, the president was elected by an overwhelming mandate. He was elected by the majority of Americans, and yet you have these activist judges. I mean, if they want to dictate policy, they should go run for office, but they are representatives of our judicial branch. We have separation of powers for a reason. The president is the only elected official in the entire country who is literally elected by a majority of Americans. He's doing what the American people elected him to do. If they want to run for office, they should go do that. But we will continue to fight back in the courts. We have better lawyers. We have an outstanding White House counsel's office who's prepared to take this fight.
Yeah, I love that. So we can expect the administration to just continue on, press on. You've got Border Czar Tom Homan. You've got DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, who are just pressing on and saying, you know what, we're just going to continue to do the good work for the American people that they, again, voted Donald Trump in to do.
Right. And I mean, look at the border, everything we've accomplished on the southern border. We basically, made drastic steps to secure the border in just a month. It's amazing how, with a stroke of a pen, President Biden really undid all of the progress that President Trump made in his first term, and now President Trump is taking decisive action. We have some of the lowest crossings we've ever seen in history. The results speak for themselves.
Isn't it? It's so funny, Anna, because, you had President Biden and border czar Kamala Harris, if you can even call her that.
Borders are terrible.
Yeah. And you had them constantly saying, but we just need Congress to pass something. But we just need Congress to pass something. And it turns out you actually can exercise your power as the commander-in-chief.
Correct. Yeah, it turns out that the president, the executive leader of the executive branch of government, can perform executive actions, which Joe Biden did. He, with the stroke of his pen, remember day one, he undid everything that President Trump did with the border wall, with everything he did for border security. On day one, he could have, in the last 4 years, and Kamala Harris certainly could have encouraged him to do that, to reverse all of those harmful executive actions that led to terrorists like those in Trinidad, Aragua coming into our communities, killing Americans. He absolutely could have addressed that, but he chose not to. He didn't take it seriously. And we saw the results of that horrific murder, rape of American citizens across this country. But you know what? You're exactly right. President Trump, day one, proved that we can secure the border. We can take executive action to make sure that Americans are safer.
How confident is the administration that Congress will do its part in codifying a lot of this? Because I know, my congressman back home in Texas is Representative Brandon Gill. He's a freshman. He's been just tremendous. And I know he's been calling a lot for a lot of these executive orders that have been so powerful and instrumental. We've got to do our part in Congress and codify some of this. Otherwise, the next radical leftist who gets into, the presidency is just going to undo all of the great progress that we've done.
Yeah, I think it's really extremely helpful. The president, as we know, he is the master of the art of the deal, right? Yes. He is a master deal maker. He has great relationships on the Hill. He has great relationships with Speaker Johnson and Senator Thune. He is really well respected on the Hill. And I think you also have members of Congress who were elected also to carry out this mandate. And, everyone on the Hill understands, again, the president is the only elected official in this country who is elected by the overwhelming majority of Americans. So I think they take that very seriously. And so the president is continuing to foster those relationships, and they see the seriousness of that too.
I just saw that President Trump announced a tariff. What is it? 25% on automakers imported. And at the same time that you saw that announcement, you saw a $20 billion investment that Hyundai decided to make in this country. And I would just ask, what would you say to the naysayers who immediately see a tariff and say tariffs don't work?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because as we know, there are a lot of car manufacturers, they'll assemble things in America. And while we want you to assemble things in America, but more importantly, we want the whole car. We want 100% of those cars made in America, because it's one thing to just assemble it. It's another thing to assemble it based on parts that come from China or Mexico or other places. So yes, we want 100% of those cars manufactured right here in the United States. We know we have the best workers. We know we have the best business environment because of this president. And like you said, automakers like Hyundai are responding, and I'll also add automakers like Stellantis. Even Volkswagen and other companies have announced that they're looking into this too. So I know there's a lot of talk about tariffs, but you're exactly right. The proof is in the pudding. It's working, and you're seeing automakers and other foreign business leaders recognizing that, number one, the president is creating an outstanding business environment for everybody across the world, and he's also really incentivizing those auto manufacturers and all manufacturers to make sure that those products are made right here at home.
Yeah, I love that. I watch President Trump and the differences that I feel like I see just as someone who watches him on TV, right? Yeah. I see the difference in him. And I just wonder if you could speak to what you guys see here on a daily basis. How is this President Trump different than first-term President Trump?
Yeah, I think it's really, he's having fun, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's having fun.
It feels like it.
It is. I mean, I remember a few weeks ago, he's bringing the press in to sign these executive orders.
Yeah.
He's passing out the Trump was right about everything hats. Like, he's having so much fun because, again, he knows that he was elected with an overwhelming mandate. And it's really fun for us as a team, too, to be part of that. So I think it's really exciting to be part of an administration where we're having fun. We know that the American people overwhelmingly support these policies. And so we're able to just win and drive the narrative every day. It's awesome.
I mean, it really does seem like this must be such a fun place to work.
It is, yeah.
All you guys are doing is winning.
Yeah, exactly. It's super fun. And like you said, to your point, you know, we have Caroline Leavitt. We have like just an awesome, really inspiring group of people to work with. And when the leadership comes from the top, he's doing, you know, an amazing job. He's incredibly inspirational to all of us. He is the hardest working man in politics. And that's really carried over to his role as commander-in-chief. So it's really, really awesome to be a part of.
What are your hours like?
Long.
Yeah, like 24/7?
Yeah, well, I know the president, of course, has a world famous work ethic, right? I mean, he doesn't sleep, so that means we don't sleep. And you know, it's an honor, though. It's truly an honor to be, you know, part of an administration that's delivering wins, like we said, every day on the behalf of the American people. And so we just follow the boss's lead. He's incredibly hardworking, and you know, we're always on the clock, just trying to make sure that we are attentive and working on behalf of Americans.
You say, hey, if he's a grandfather and he can do it, we can too.
Exactly. Again, the leadership comes from the top, so it's incredibly inspirational, and so we just want to follow his lead and make sure we're doing everything we can.
It's much different when the president isn't going to sleep calling a lid at 4:30 in the afternoon after he eats his pudding.
And it's so funny because in our office, I don't know if you've ever been in our office, but the press are able to literally come in and they're just exhausted. You know, they're like, we're not used to actually having to work hard and do things. We're not used to having things to cover, you know, because we're used to going home at 3:00.
Right.
So I think it's a quite the change of pace for them to actually have something to cover, and I think there's even a part of them that kind of appreciates that they actually have something to do every day. But we're like, what do you mean? We're used to this. You know, this is the pace we're used to from this president. So it's fun.
I love it. So you watch the Democrats react to this, and it's very clear that they are scrambling for something to hang on to. Right? There's just one last grasp at something, and it's been, to me, shocking. Now I got to say my bar for Democrats is low. So like I'm already starting at a low bar. Okay.
Right.
But it really has been shocking to me to see what they've tried to grab onto, thinking that it would resonate with the American people. Like, you have all the Doge stuff.
Yes.
And you have Chuck Schumer, you have, you know, Jasmine Crockett, you have all of these Democrat lawmakers going out there and trying to hold press conferences explaining that they are so upset that President Trump is rooting out waste, fraud, and corruption in their tax money. And I'm like, so your play is to tell Americans that they should pay more in taxes?
Right.
Doesn't seem like a winning strategy.
Spend more of their tax dollars on waste, fraud, abuse across the executive branch. And you're exactly right. I think they can't make up their mind on what their message is. I guess, you know, and by the way, I'll add, you know, the Democrat Party has the lowest approval rating they've pretty much ever had. I want to say at least in several decades. President Trump is the most popular he has literally ever been at this point, you know, 10 years in politics, right? So again, the proof is in the pudding. American people, it's common sense, overwhelmingly don't want to fund waste, fraud, and abuse. And so I think the Democrats can't make up their mind because they know that the president's agenda is overwhelmingly popular.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the way that they're reacting to this, and I'm like, if you guys keep this up, you're never going to win another election again.
So I hope they do.
Yeah.
Because they can't make up their mind. They can't decide who their leader is. They're putting Jasmine Crockett out there, who is continuing to embarrass the whole of her party every single day.
Yeah.
So I think they have a massive messaging problem. They have a massive ideas problem because, yes, they're continuing to hit these policies that are overwhelmingly popular with the American people, but of course they have no solutions because their policies have proven themselves to be a disaster. So I think they have a lot of soul searching to do over the next 4 years.
Yeah, I completely agree. So tell me when I'm watching President Trump and Vice President Vance on television, say with the Zelensky visit, right? That was just, oh my gosh. If we have time, I want to ask you about that because that was amazing. But it feels like they really have it down. They've got this partnership going. It feels like Trump is giving him deference, right? It feels like he is very comfortable. There is an air of confidence that I never really saw with Vice President Pence. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I think you're right. They have a great relationship. You know, the vice president is constantly out he's doing a lot of world leader visits. As you know, he's going to Greenland this week with his wife to do that visit. So I think President Trump really trusts him to really carry the torch of this administration. I think they have a great working relationship. He has his own background as a veteran, as a senator. So he really has kind of these areas of expertise that the president trusts and that he's able to lean on in some ways too. So I think that's extremely helpful to him.
One of the funniest things that I saw I want to touch on the Zelensky visit, was that Fox News came on and said, well, Zelensky's leaving, and we asked about what was happening to his lunch that was sitting in the hallway, and they said that the staffers were going to eat it. Did that actually happen?
It might have happened. So I was running around, so I didn't get to participate in that if it did happen.
You didn't get the lunch.
It's funny, no, but I see the lunch every day, and it always looks good, and I'm always very jealous. So if my colleagues got to eat it, I'm very jealous of that. But I was unfortunately not there, but it always looks very decadent and beautiful. So
I watch that every time I watch it. I just die laughing because that is so funny. And then what do you know? Zelensky came to the table.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So, okay. So last question, because I want to respect your time.
Oh, good.
What is something that the American public they would be maybe surprised to hear about President Trump? What has it been like interacting with him? What is something that maybe people would be, I don't know, shocked to hear?
Well, I don't know if your viewers would be shocked to hear this, but I think what, the mainstream media really fails to cover is, how compassionate he is and what a human he is and what a family man he is. I know we saw, Kai Trump speak at the Republican National Convention talking about what it's like to have the president as a grandfather and how attentive he is and how caring he is. And so I think, so much of what drives this president is he has such a love for this country. He has such a love for the American people. He has such a beautiful family. And so, I think that's severely undercovered, not by the Blaze, but certainly by other outlets. And so I think that's really such a big part of what drives him to want to work so hard on behalf of Americans.
It reminds me of the night of the RNC. You mentioned Kai Trump. You had his granddaughter, Kai Trump, come on stage. He had just gotten shot. The man was just shot in the head. He still had the ear bandage on. And the next day, you had Whoopi Goldberg on The View come out and say, I didn't like that they brought out Kai Trump because it made Donald Trump look human. She said it made him look human. And it's like, well, he is a human.
Right, exactly.
Of course it did, because he is one.
Right.
And the left so badly wants the American people to forget that.
Right.
To portray him as some monster.
Right.
When in reality, he's just a really good, decent man who loves his country, is what it sure looks like to me.
Exactly. Yep.
Wow. Well, I appreciate you so much. I appreciate all of you guys are doing. I know that it's hard work. I'm glad that it's fun work, though.
Yeah.
And we are just, on behalf of my viewers, and I know the majority of the American people, we are just so proud of the work that you guys are doing, and we appreciate it so much.
Well, thank you to you guys as well for getting the real news out there. We know that's hard to find these days, so we really appreciate outlets like you guys who are really speaking the truth and sharing all of the good work that this president is doing.
Thank you so much. Of course, Anna Kelly, Deputy Press Secretary. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank the White House once again for the amazing opportunity. I hope it's the first of many visits to the White House to speak to all of the administration and their officials. It's just an amazing experience. Aside from traveling, because I don't travel well. Stephen, can you confirm that?
You don't travel well at all.
Like at all. And I don't like dealing with the airport. I don't like flying. I am always convinced that I probably will die. And so the whole thing is stressful for me. But what is extremely stressful is going through airport security and dealing with the TSA, especially when you do what I do, which is, there's the TSA. When you do what I do, which is like whenever I go, we'll show a picture here in a minute, but whenever I go, I wear as many things as I can to piss off liberals, which usually includes my MAGA hat. And go ahead and throw that up. So that's like, it's either that one or the black one or the pink one or the camo one. You get my point. All right. And so I always get harassed when I am in the airport with all of my MAGA gear on. I do get a lot of high fives. I do get a lot of people within the TSA who are happy that I'm wearing that, but I do also have some people who just harass me because, let's face it, they see my red hat and they don't like me. And so they're, oh, we need to search your luggage. Oh, we need to do this. We need to do that. Stephen, can you confirm, please? I get the looks, right?
Yes.
I get the looks. And then what happens? They got to check my luggage.
Every time. You are constantly screened, literally every time. And you got it. But how many times did you do it in this trip to DC?
But I think it was both ways. And I was on the phone. I called him. I was so pissed. I called him because they took out my dry shampoo when they checked my screening. Okay, it's a dry shampoo. It's a total powder. It doesn't have what's the spray I'm thinking of, Stephen? Aerosol. It's not an aerosol spray, right?
Correct. It's not. It's literally like it's a dry powder. It's
the most basic imagine if it was like talcum powder or something, or like baby powder. It's just powder. Okay. And he pulls it out. It's 4 ounces. And he pulls it out and he says, can't have this. And I said, what do you mean you can't have it? And he said, it's bathroom stuff. That's how he said it. I'm just saying it how he said it. He said, it's bathroom stuff. You can't have it. And I said, what do you mean it's bathroom stuff? And he said, no bathroom stuff is allowed in big containers. And I was like, it's not a liquid. It's a powder. And he was like, it's all bathroom stuff. And so he took it. He confiscated it. And I was like, I know this is not true. And I called you.
And we need to add that you were late.
Yeah, I was already late. Okay, thank you. I was already late, and I was like, it was crazy. Why was I late, Stephen?
I was going to ask you why were you late, Sarah?
Well, because I forgot my ID. Did I mention I don't travel well? So the whole thing was just a giant mess. I'm rushing there. I'm trying to rush to get to my gate. I call him and I'm like, I really want my dry shampoo back, but I don't have time. And then I rush to the gate and I'm on the phone with him and I'm already there. And I'm like, okay, my gate was right by TSA. Should I go back? And Stephen was like,
yes,
absolutely.
You have to go back.
Absolutely, you should go back. And I was like, I'm going back. So I went back and I spoke to the manager, I guess. I don't know what to call him, TSA manager on duty. And I was like, I want my dry shampoo back because that is not true. And I'm going to show you on my phone where it says it's only liquids. And he was like, okay. So he ended up having a talk with him, getting it back. And he was like, he's just used to, people having liquids that they shouldn't. And I was like, sir, this was a powder. And he told me that no bathroom stuff was allowed. So maybe we need some training there.
They're not sending their best.
They're not sending their best, which is why I'm so excited that I heard Senators Mike Lee and Tommy Tuberville have just introduced a bill to abolish the TSA. I very much support that. By the way, for those of you who are like, oh, I know the Democrats are like, oh, they support bin Laden. They want another attack. No. Dummies, it would just move airport screening over to private security companies that would be under FAA oversight. They would privatize the TSA. And I'm just telling you, part of the reason that I get so nervous when I travel is because they're harassing me over my dry shampoo, but they're not finding any, they do these, undercover operations and they fail most of their tests. TSA fails to detect weapons more than 70% of the time, one of the headlines reads. Yeah, there it is. So they're not making us safer, and they're stealing my shit. So I fully support Senator Mike Lee's endeavor to abolish the TSA, as I know my husband does as well, because it will make me feel a little bit safer to fly. I appreciate you guys tuning in for our exclusive interviews, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.